Translator, Ninetails, editor, Fish Creek. Beyond the village lay an herb garden vast as a small sea. Within it cultivated spirit herbs that Apothecary had plucked from the great ruins. The villagers had long cast covetous eyes upon those herbs. Yet Apothecary had reared all manner of perilous little venomous bugs within the garden, and thus none dared set foot inside. In the great ruins, folk were few, and spirit herbs were many, precious things scattered like stars. Over these years, Apothecary had gathered innumerable rare and strange herbs, bringing them back to transplant into this garden. He had seldom used these spirit herbs, yet at last he had resolved to spend them all upon Qin Mu. One must know that by his exacting standards, every stalk he had collected was of great value. To take any one of them outside and sell it would easily stir a riot. Therefore, Apothecary had truly wagered everything. As the bonfire gradually died down, the villagers returned to their homes to rest. Qin too went back to his room and soon fell into deep sleep. Granny C drew a quilt over him and gazed at the youth's sleeping face, a tender smile blooming. My Muir, whether you have an overlord body or not, you will always be the child I raised, and I will not allow anyone or anything to harm you. She was still sharp of mind, and from village chief and apothecary's expressions during the bonfire celebration, she could see many things. Only she did not lay them bare. With tiny feet, she pattered back into her room to sleep. The next day, Blind leaned on his bamboo cane and, full of excitement, dashed into the house, calling, Muir, quickly get up. It's morning, Apothecary. I still haven't got out of bed. How dare you come to peep? With a tremendous crash, Qin blinked open his drowsy eyes and saw Hadar, Blind, fly out from Granny C's room. Blind arced through the air and landed somewhere outside the village. Grandpa Blind sure is impressive. Qin cried out in admiration, seeing Blind still clutching his bamboo cane, seated cross-legged, drifting through the air with an innocent face. Qin rose and washed up, then made breakfast to eat together with Granny Sai. After washing bowls and spoons, he saw Blind come running back from outside the village, shouting excitedly, Damned old woman! What a ruthless kick! I almost couldn't find my way back! Muir, come over quickly. Apothecary had made some elixir for you. Granny C's face turned vicious as she shot Blind a glare, then unsteadily rose to leave. I shall go border Dragon City to do some trading. Blind, I shall leave Muir to you these few days. If I come back and find out that he has lost even a single strand of hair, you will answer to me. Old Ma, is the cow carriage ready? Cripple, is the bamboo raft tied in place? Qin immediately followed Blind to Apothecary's workshop, and before he even stepped inside, he was struck by a fierce medicinal scent. Then he saw a gigantic cauldron hanging in midair, with several vermilion-colored birds circling it. Between their feathers, flames raged like furious tongues, baking the cauldron until its outer shell glowed red-hot, while from within came the bubbling roar of boiling brew. Muir, this is your medicine. Seeing Qin arrive, Apothecary produced the final herb, a single piece of green leaf, and tossed it into the great cauldron. The instant the leaf touched the medicinal water, the churning liquid thickened at once, becoming dense beyond measure. As he worked, Apothecary thrust out his palm, and the huge cauldron began to spin at high speed. Immediately, clattering sounds rang from within, for the full pot of medicine had transformed into half a pot of white medicine pills. As the cauldron continued its rapid rotation, the pills collided with one another, giving off crisp metallic chimes. Apothecary flicked his hands, and the vermilion-colored birds flew out through the window and vanished. When the cauldron descended to the floor, Qin was left speechless. Grandpa Apothecary, I have to eat so many medicinal pills today? If you ate all of them, you would be dead. Apothecary spoke evenly. This cauldron of medicine of mine is made from all the highest quality spirit herbs, even though it's just a low-level vitality reinforcement pill. One pill wins 100 pills from other apothecaries. You only can eat 1 to 2 pills at a time, and no more than that. Qin was skeptical. Apothecary had fed him strange and bizarre concoctions before. Each time it had been a great bowl filled to the brim. Yet now he only had to swallow 1 pill. Could the medicinal energy within be truly so fierce? Blind was likewise doubtful and said, The swindlers outside also say that one of their pills was equivalent to 100 pills of others? Is your medicine really that strong? However, I must say these medicines are pretty fragrant. Apothecary let out a sinister laugh. Why don't you try eating the entire cauldron of medicine? Muir, how about you grab a bunch to try? Blind attempted to goad him, yet Chin-Mu would not be stirred. Yet he only lifted a pill to his mouth. The instant the spirit pill entered his belly, he knew something was wrong. It was as though thousands of fire, water, gold, and wood dragons were overturning seas and rivers within his stomach, making his body grow tall, shrink short, swell fat, and turn thin in the blink of an eye. At times, he was so cold that frost formed a layer of ice upon him, while at other times he was so hot that burning smoke poured from his clothes. Sometimes his garments sprouted buds, and the hair on the beast skin of his clothes grew wildly. At other times, his clothes were stained with a metallic sheen, and even his skin turned hard, as if he were forged wholly of metal. More frightening still, all these different symptoms erupted together, inflicting unbearable pain upon Chin-Mu. He let out a muffled groan and at once circulated Overlord Body 3 Elixir technique, using his vital chi to dissolve the surging medicinal power. Blind's expression changed completely as he cried out, "Apothecary, your vitality reinforcement pill seems to be different from ordinary vitality reinforcement pill." That's right. A normal vitality reinforcement pill is separated into 4 kinds: fire vitality pill, water vitality pill, gold vitality pill, and wood vitality pill. Apothecary wore a sinister smile. Vitality Reinforcement Pill is directed at the 4 different vital chi attributes of the 4 great spirit bodies in order to nourish the spirit body's vital ki. However, Chin-Mu's overlord body has no attributes, thus I have come up with a compromise method to refine spirit herbs with all 4 attributes into a vitality reinforcement pill that contains all 4 attributes. Maybe it would be able to arouse the power of the overlord body's vital chi. Only Chin-Mu's overlord body's vital chi could absorb this kind of spirit pill. If you had eaten the entire cauldron of vitality reinforcement pill just now, hey? Blind shuddered uncontrollably. If he had eaten them, the clash of 4 different vital chi attributes would likely have scattered his strength, sapping it by 20 to 30%. Of course, that would only happen if he had swallowed the entire cauldron. Eating only 1 pill would not harm him much. Apothecary, is what you refined a tonic or a toxic? Blind muttered. Suddenly, Chin-Mu gave a loud shout and began to sprint like a madman. Vanishing in the blink of an eye, Blind could not help but worry. The 4 attributes conflict each other. Would Muir be fine? There's no need to worry. He is digesting the medicinal energy. Apothecary spoke thus, yet inwardly he was uneasy. After all, it was his first time improving the vitality reinforcement pill, and also his first time refining the improved vitality reinforcement pill. With Chin-Mu as the first to try it, Apothecary too did not know how much medicinal energy the pill contained, whether it carried side effects, or whether the one who ate it would die. Naturally, he could never speak such words aloud, or Granny C would come for his life. From a forest far away came Chin-Mu's roar, and tree after tree toppled, rumbling as they fell. The corners of Apothecary's eyes twitched as he said, "It's going to be fine, don't worry. Listen, he is currently vigorous and lively." Blind sighed. Young people sure are full of energy. In the forest, Chin-Mu raced among the trees. His fists and feet were swift as lightning as he kicked and punched at the massive trunks. A great tree that required 2 people to embrace could endure only 3 punches and 2 kicks before he snapped it in half. Unbearable. It's too unbearable. The medicinal energy in Apothecary's vitality reinforcement pill was simply too strong. Even while running and circulating Overlord Body 3 Elixir technique, he still could not dissolve it, feeling as though his body would explode. He could only unleash the martial arts that Cripple and Old Ma had taught him, venting the excess medicinal force. Within his spirit embryo divine treasure, the tiny human-shaped spirit embryo also performed breathing exercises frantically, drawing in the rushing vital chi and purifying it. This little Chin-Mu was so exhausted, he could only gasp for breath. "Die, young'un!" All at once the forest quaked as a furious devil ape rose within the trees, bellowing with rage. Fists the size of small mountains smashed ruthlessly toward Chin-Mu, who was laying waste to the forest. So it was that the medicinal energy had rushed to Chin-Mu's head, and without knowing it, he had once again strayed into the devil ape's territory. Seeing that it was the same young'un who had trespassed again, the ape's fury flared, and it attacked at once without a word. Chinmu's eyes burned scarlet as he abruptly raised his head. The medicinal energy within him erupted violently, driving the vital chi throughout his body to burst and swell to the brim. He sprang forward and hurled a punch at the devil ape's fist. Boom! A deafening roar rang out as Chinmu was blasted backward, crashing through several huge trees along his path. The devil ape leaped after him in excitement, lifting its leg to sweep at Chinmu the moment he landed. That enormous thick limb came down like a vast pitch-black pillar, crushing toward him. In that instant, Chinmu shouted and delivered countless kicks upon the devil ape's thick leg, striking the point where muscle and tendon joined. At once, the ape felt strength drain from that limb, and it hurriedly followed with another punch from above. Chinmu raised his arms to block and was forced back yet again. In close combat against Chinmu, the devil ape's punches and kicks raked up gales that whistled through the air. As it attacked, Chinmu seemed to turn hysterical, actually engaging this strange beast barehanded. Even while at a disadvantage, he showed not the slightest fear. The devil ape grew even more furious, becoming hysterical as well. Each punch and kick it threw at Chinmu grew heavier and heavier. One human and one ape, one great and one small. Wherever they went, trees collapsed and shattered rocks flew. Suddenly, Chinmu sprang into the sky as if he could fly, sprinting along the devil ape's arm and reaching its face in the next breath. Thousand-armed Buddha. His two arms seemed to become hundreds, after images blossoming as hundreds of punches crashed in succession upon the devil ape's soft, drooping nose. The devil ape howled in pain and fell onto its back. It swung its huge palm and ruthlessly smacked Chinmu away. Rolling over to crawl up, it turned its gaze, its nose still bleeding. Seeing Chinmu buried into the cliff by that blow, the devil ape could not help feeling satisfied. Yungan, dead. Suddenly, the Yungan buried in the cliff twitched. With both hands braced, he hauled himself out of the crater and charged at it like a madman. The devil ape jumped in shock and beat its chest with both fists, bellowing as it leaped toward Chinmu. Die, Yungan! Translator, Nine Tails. Editor, Fish Creek. Beneath the cliff, within the valley, the din of grievous impacts rang without cease, shaking the woodlands until every leaf trembled and swayed with the quaking. The mountain birds, startled, beat their wings and fled far away, not daring to linger near. In that valley, the devil ape sprang forth, hugging a colossal boulder, and in midair hurled it toward Chinmu, as though smashing down a mountain. Chinmu slipped aside with nimble grace. Seeing its blow miss, the devil ape seized yet another great rock, meaning to smash again. Yet Chinmu leaped onto that boulder, rebounded onto its nose once more, and drove another palm strike into it. Thunderclap, 8th strike 3rd form, Tempest of the 9 Dragons. Within that palm lay 9 stacked surges of power. The first force burst from the heart of his palm like a furious dragon's charge, rocking the devil ape until it toppled backward. Chinmu's shoulders and hips then moved as one. With strength coursing through his whole frame, he drew every muscle to gather at the center of his palm. The second surge erupted. Its head was slapped into the earth, cracking the rocks beneath it. The cords of Chinmu's body writhed like a dragon, coiling and twisting. With the third blast of Tempest of the 9 Dragons, the split stones began to crumble apart. His muscles pulsed violently, and the fourth force exploded, driving half the demon ape's head down into the ground. The fifth force of Tempest of the 9 Dragons thundered out, and a deep rumble rolled up from the earth as the devil ape's head sank completely beneath the ground. The sixth force of Tempest of the 9 Dragons was like the impact of 6 dragons, but just as it was about to burst forth, the devil ape had already reacted. Its small mountain fist swept in from the side and smacked Chinmu away like a fly. Chinmu hit the ground and tumbled. The devil ape struggled to wrench its head free, then shook it several times, flinging rubble from its thick hair. On the far side, Chinmu flipped up and rushed back at the ape like the wind itself. Frightened and vexed, the devil ape pondered for a moment, then sprang onto the cliff, squatted there, and waved a hand. Yungan, no. With fleeting footwork, Chinmu surged forward, ran straight up the sheer cliff from bottom to top, and continued to press the attack on the devil ape. The devil ape flew into a rage. Man and ape bounded across the cliff face, and as they battled, stones were blasted and shot in all directions at random. After a long while, the medicinal strength within Chinmu's body was gradually spent. The devil ape too was exhausted to the point it could not even take another step. Both man and ape panted for breath, collapsed there, and lay unable to move. 5 minutes later, Chinmu caught his breath, sat up, and regulated his breathing to readjust himself. He was delighted to discover that in so short a time, his vital qi had greatly improved. His vital qi had grown more tenacious, flowing unimpeded to every corner of his body. His body was also coated in much filth, likely from battling the demon ape and stirring the medicinal strength, which strengthened his vital qi and refined out more impurities from within. Chinmu flicked his hand, and a shrill screech sounded out, as though an arrow were ripping through the air. The devil ape was startled and immediately sat up, assuming a guarded stance. Chinmu stretched his limbs at ease and felt the ache in his muscles. He shook his head. Let's not fight anymore. The devil ape understood his words and sighed in relief. It stretched out an arm, uprooted a huge tree as thick as an arm, swept up a bunch of leaves, and slowly chewed them in its mouth. Then it set the tree down before Chinmu and, in a low, muffled voice, said, "Eat, young'un." Chinmu plucked a bright red fruit, peeled it, and ate. Sweetness and cool freshness moistened his throat. Devil ape looked on with disdain and resented him for eating so little. It then pounded its chest heavily. "Eat strong!" Beaten by the devil ape, Chinmu's face was covered in bruises. Enduring the pain in his body, he stood and performed thunderclap 8 strikes before it, then patted his own chest. "Train! Strong!" Devil ape rolled its eye and continued to slowly chew the leaves, replying with contempt. "Believe! Ghost!" After Chinmu finished resting, he leaped off the cliff and ran along the cliff wall. "Fight tomorrow!" Blinking, the devil ape waited until Chinmu was far away, then jumped to its feet and began to imitate Chinmu's earlier movements. Though its thunderclap 8 strikes was crude, that strength was extraordinary after all, and it actually managed to strike out some semblance of thunderclap 8 strikes, producing the sounds of wind and lightning. Devil was stunned, ecstasy flashing across its face. It kept striking until the entire mountain cliff was filled with the roar of wind, and it shouted, "Strong! Strong! Strong!" When Chinmu returned to the village, Apothecary hurried over anxiously to examine his body, smeared ointment on his face, and asked, "Is there any unusual symptoms?" Chin nodded his head, making Apothecary even more nervous. "Grandpa Apothecary's spirit pills sure are effective. My vital qi had become even stronger." Chinmu replied. Apothecary finally breathed out in relief and smiled. "These spirit pills are indeed effective for the overlord body. As long as you don't die from eating them, it means that my approach is correct. Hold on to this cauldron of pills first while I go mull over other prescriptions." After saying that, he left in excitement. Blind braced himself with his bamboo cane and smiled. "Are you tired, Moore? If you are, I can teach you a first-class eye technique." Chinmu coughed and replied, "Grandpa Blind, I'm over here. Over there is the toilet." Blind turned and faced Butcher, who was sunning himself on the lower millstone. "I pondered over it for a long time. Since your overlord body doesn't have any attributes, you can't cultivate my techniques. However, this eye technique doesn't require vital qi with attributes. Therefore, the overlord body's vital qi can also cultivate. Come with me. My technique is called 9 Heavens Eyes Awakening Skill." Chinmu's head ached, for he always felt Blind was somewhat unreliable, yet he still forced himself to follow. He was utterly bewildered when Blind said he wished to teach him 9 Heavens Eyes Awakening Skill, yet did not teach him how to train his eyes. Instead, he brought him to observe and study the 4 stone statues at the village's corners. The 2 of them sat before the stone statue at the eastern corner. Even with Blind's hollow sockets, he still fixed his gaze upon the statue as though he could truly see something. Chinmu knew everyone in the village was strange. Even the 4 stone statues at the 4 corners were strange. In disabled elderly village, there was no one who wasn't strange. Though these 4 stone statues were not tall, they were terrifyingly heavy, so frightfully heavy that even Chinmu could not budge them in the slightest. His current strength was immense, especially after consuming the blood of the 4 spirits. Recently, with vital qi cleansing and refining his body and marrow, his physique had grown stronger and stronger. Yet he still could not move the stone statue even an inch. When he was young, he would often climb the statues to play, but Granny C and the others would always grab him down, telling him not to be disrespectful to the stone statues. During New Year and other festivities, Granny Sai and the others would still set out offerings for the stone statues and light incense sticks. Praying to the statues to bless the villagers' lives and keep the village in peace, the four statues were not sculptures of humans. They only bore human-like forms. The southern stone statue had a bird head and crouched atop a stone pillar. With its hand resting on its knee, two wings were carved from its back as though it were ready to soar away. To the north of the village, the stone statue was an old man with a tortoise back, holding a horsetail whisk. Yet the horsetail whisk was carved into a huge snow-white snake emerging from the whisk's handle. The white snake coiled around the tortoise-backed old man, its head gazing far into the distance. On the western side of the village, the stone statue was a carving of a woman wearing a plume feather crown, with a crouching tiger beneath her legs. That female carving was also exceedingly strange. Between her brows, another eye was carved, but within that eye a bird nest was sculpted, and inside the nest were three little birds. And directly before him was the stone statue at the eastern corner of the village, a humanoid with a dragon head. Upon its body was a herb basket, with a few herbs still within. Blind told him to observe the stone statue carefully. Yet Chinmu had seen it countless times in the past, and had even climbed atop it with atrocious behavior. He truly did not know what he was meant to look for. "Mu'er, can you lift this stone statue?" Blind asked, seeing Chinmu's absent-mindedness. "I can't." Chinmu shook his head. The statue was too heavy, so heavy it did not seem to be stone at all. A stone as tall as a person should at most weigh a few thousand kilograms, and with Chinmu's current strength it would be easy, yet he could not move any of the four statues in the slightest. Blind then kept the talk lively. "Do you know why the stone statues are so heavy?" Chinmu shook his head again. "I don't know. The stone statue actually isn't heavy, not at all." Blind's expression remained tranquil. What is heavy is not the stone, but what was sculpted from the stone. Chinmu was confused. After being carved from stone, wasn't it still stone? Blind went on. For example, when learning calligraphy and painting from deaf, your paintings and writings are a load of crap which are worthless. However, deaf's paintings and writings can't even be bought with 10,000 taels of gold. Both paintings were made from paper and ink, yet why is deaf's painting more valuable? Chinmu half understood what Blind meant, but deaf's paintings truly held an extraordinary charm within them, far beyond his own. Blind raised his bamboo cane and pointed. If these stone statues were sculpted by an ordinary person, it wouldn't be heavy at all. However, since the person who sculpted them comes from an extraordinary background, and the contents of the sculptures are even more frightening, the weight of these stone statues can't be measured with common logic. Carrying a stone statue is equivalent to. His expression turned eccentric, and after a time he continued, is equivalent to carrying a god.